I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
We have three different sentence types: simple sentence, compound sentence, and complex sentence. What is a simple sentence? A simple sentence is equal to one independent clause. A simple sentence أو الجملة البسيطة بتساوي أو هي نفس ال independent clause, which means that it contains a subject, a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. يعني هي بتحتوي على subject أو فاعل، verb أو فعل، وبتعبر عن فكرة تامة. For example, Jad went to the store. Jad is the subject, went is the verb, and when you read this sentence, you can understand the whole meaning that it expresses. Will you help me with the math homework? You is the subject, will help is the verb, and when you read the sentence, you can also understand its meaning. Sarah and Jesse went to the beach. Sarah and Jesse are the subject, went is the verb, and when you read the sentence, you can understand the whole meaning. Jad went to the store. Jad هو الفاعل, went هو الفعل، ولما أقرأ هذه الجملة بقدر أفهم الفكرة التامة، فإذا هي simple sentence أو independent clause. Will you help me with the math homework? هل رح تساعدني بفرض الماث؟ عندي subject اللي هو you، وعندي verb اللي هو will help، وعندي فكرة تامة. Sarah and Jesse went to the beach. سارة وجيسي راحوا على البحر. عندي فاعل وعندي فعل وعندي فكرة تامة. A simple sentence can have one subject and one verb. For example, the pizza smells delicious. ممكن يكون عندي subject واحد و verb واحد، مثل the pizza اللي هو subject، smells delicious. ممكن يكون في عندي more than one subject and one verb. عماد, Suzanne, and Sarah. I have three people who are the subject of the sentence. Solved is the verb and their homework. ممكن يكون في عندي أكتر من subject مع فعل واحد. مثلا هون عندي عماد, سوزان وسارة، 3 أشخاص عملوا فعل واحد اللي هو solved أو حلوا الهومورك. ممكن يكون في عندي subject واحد مع أكتر من one verb. One subject and more than one verb. For example, the frog, which is one subject, did 2 verbs, jumped and landed. ممكن يكون في عندي the frog يلي هو الفاعل، jumped أو landed عمل فعلين. Finally, several subjects and verbs. ممكن يكون في عندي أكتر من فاعل وأكتر من فعل. For example, Karim and Tariq checked the phone and updated its software. Karim and Tariq are the subjects. Checked and updated, I have 2 verbs here. يعني كريم وطارق هن 2 subjects عملوا 2 verbs. عندي فعلين هون. Checked و updated its software. What is a compound sentence? It's a sentence that contains 2 independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. شو هي compound sentence؟ هي جملة بتحتوي على 2 independent clauses مجموعين ب coordinating conjunction. For example, I have to find a job. This is an independent clause. I am unemployed. This is another independent clause. The 2 clauses are joined by for, which is a coordinating conjunction. Note that you should add a comma before the coordinating conjunction. Another example is Sarah was sick. This is an independent clause. So she didn't go to the party. She didn't go to the party is another independent clause. The 2 clauses are joined by so, which is a coordinating conjunction, and there's a comma that comes before the coordinating conjunction. I have to find a job. أنا لازم أحصل على وظيفة. هي أول independent clause، و I am unemployed هي الثاني independent clause، يعني أنا عاطل عن العمل. التو independent clauses اثنيناتهم مجموعين ب coordinating conjunction يلي هي for، ولازم قبل ال coordinating conjunction دايما يكون في comma. Sarah was sick so she didn't go to the party. Sarah was sick هي أول independent clause، يعني سارة كانت مريضة. She didn't go to the party هي تاني independent clause، يعني هي ما راحت على الحفلة. ال two independent clauses مجموعين ب coordinating conjunction يلي هي so، ودايما قبلها حيكون في comma. ال coordinating conjunctions يلي نحن بنستعملهم هن for and nor but or yet and so. ولحتى ما ننساهم فينا نستعين بكلمة fan boys. Fan boys. For is used to add a reason. It's almost the same as the word because. For example, Sam drank some water for he was thirsty. He drank some water because he was thirsty. نستعمل for لحتى نضيف سبب كأنه عم نستعمل كلمة because. مثلا Sam drank some water يعني سام شرب بعض المي for he was thirsty لأن هو عطشان. ودايما ما بننسى الكوما قبل coordinating conjunction. And is used to add a similar equal idea. For example, he washed the dishes and she cleaned the room. This idea is similar to this idea. نستعمل and لحتى نزيد فكرة متساوية أو متشابهة. He washed the dishes يعني هو غسل الصحون، و and she cleaned the room هي نظفت الغرفة. هول الفكرتين متشابهتان. Nor is used to add a negative equal idea, as if we're saying and not. For example, Sarah doesn't like apples, nor does she like bananas. Sarah doesn't like apples and she does not like bananas. نستعمل nor لحتى نزيد فكرة متساوية بس سلبية، يعني كأنه عم نقول and not. But is used to add an opposite idea. نستعمل but لحتى نزيد فكرة معاكسة أو نزيد فكرة ضد الفكرة الأولانية. All the children wanted to eat the pizza. كل الولاد كان بدهم ياكلوا البيتزا. But no one wanted to buy it. بس ما حدا كان بده يشتريها. We use or to add an alternative possibility. نستعمل or لحتى نضيف احتمال بديل. مثلا, we could go to the zoo or we could go to the park. This is the first possibility and this is the second possibility. كأنه عم نزيد احتمال تاني. We could go to the zoo. فينا نروح على zoo أو فينا نروح على البارك. هذا احتمال بديل. Yet is used to add an unexpected or surprising continuation. نستعمل yet لنزيد على الجملة كمالة غير متوقعة. For example, the weather was cold and snowy, yet we went out for dinner. This continuation is unexpected. يعني الطقس كان برد ومثلج بس نحن رحنا تعشينا برا. This continuation هيدا الكمالة منا متوقعة لأول كمالة لأنه هو برا سقعة وتلج. Finally, so is used to add an expected result. بنستعمل so لحتى نزيد نتيجة متوقعة. يعني, for example, he is sick, so he is not going to school. Since he is sick, we expect that he is not going to school. هو مريض فإذا هو ما رح يروح على المدرسة. هيدي النتيجة أنه هو ما رح يروح على المدرسة متوقعة لأنه هو مريض. Do not use a comma before conjunctions that do not join two independent clauses. الفان بويز أو ال coordinating conjunctions ما دايما بيجمعوا independent clauses. مثلا Betty likes to eat pizza and spaghetti. هون في عنا two words ما عنا two independent clauses فما منحط كوما قبل and. Our flight arrived on time but at the wrong gate. But هي coordinating conjunction بس it doesn't join two independent clauses. Here we do not have a clause, we have a group of words. هون ما عنا clause كاملة فما منحط كوما قبل but. Now what is a complex sentence? It's a sentence that has an independent clause and a dependent clause joined by a subordinating conjunction. The complex sentence هي جملة بتحتوي على independent clause و dependent clause مجموعين ب subordinating conjunction. For example, I gave him money because he was poor. Remember that these words such as because are called dependent markers. So this is a dependent clause and this is an independent clause joined by because. I gave him money أنا أعطيته مصاري because he was poor لأنه هو كان فقير. I gave him money هي independent clause. Because he was poor هي dependent clause و because هي subordinating conjunction. Before I left home, I turned off the light. Before I left home is a dependent clause because it starts with before. I have a subject, I have a verb, but I don't have a complete meaning if I don't add an independent clause to the sentence. So, before I left home, I turned off the light. This is a complex sentence that contains a dependent clause and an independent clause. Before I left home هي dependent clause بتبلش ب dependent marker و I turned off the light هي independent clause. So عندي independent clause و dependent clause مجموعين ب dependent marker. Common subordinating conjunctions or dependent markers are after, as, although, because, before, even though, if, once, since, though, unless, until, when, whenever, whereas, and while. We can write the complex sentence in two different methods. The first one is independent clause, no punctuation, and dependent clause. For example, I turned off the light before I left home. We start with the independent clause, then we add the subordinating conjunction and the dependent clause. There's no punctuation here. I gave him money because he was poor. We have the independent clause in the beginning, then the subordinating conjunction and the dependent clause. فينا نكتب الكومبلكس سنتنس بطريقتين. أول طريقة إنه نحط independent clause first بالأول، بعدين ما منضيف أي punctuation، ونرجع منزيد dependent clause. مثلا I turned off the light هي independent clause. Before I left home هي dependent clause، يعني أنا طفيت الضوء قبل ما أظهر من البيت. I gave him money أنا أعطيته مصاري because he was poor لأنه هو فقير. I gave him money هي independent clause، ما زدت شي هون ما ضفت شي هون وحطيت دغري subordinating conjunction و dependent clause because he was poor. The second method is I put the dependent clause first, then I put a comma, and I put the independent clause. For example, before I left home is the dependent clause. I put a comma, then I add the independent clause. I turned off the light. Another example is because he was poor. This is a dependent clause. It starts with a subordinating conjunction, comma. I gave him money. This is an independent clause. تاني طريقة هي إني بلش بالdependent clause مثل before I left home. هيدي dependent clause لأنه بتبلش ب subordinating conjunction، يعني قبل ما أترك البيت بحط comma، بعدين بحط independent clause I turned off the light، طفيت الضوء. تاني مثل because he was poor، لأنه هو كان فقير. هون حطيت because بالأول، فإذا بدي استعمل comma لفرق two clauses. Because he was poor, I gave him money. Now let's label each sentence as simple, compound or complex. هلأ بدنا نشوف كل جملة إذا هي simple, compound أو complex. Sentence number 1. John and Noor had lunch with their boss yesterday. John ونور تغدوا مع البوس مبارح. John and Noor are the subject, had is the verb, lunch with their boss yesterday. I have two subjects with one verb, but I do not have any other clause, so it's a simple sentence. John and Noor هن السبجكت أو الفاعل. صح أنا عندي 2 فاعل مع هاد يلي هو فعل واحد، بس ما عندي أي جملة تانية، ما عندي clause تانية، فإذا هي simple sentence. I live in Canada, but I cannot speak French. I live in Canada. أنا عايش بكندا. This is the first clause. I have a subject, I have a verb, and it has a full meaning. So this is an independent clause. We have but. I cannot speak French. I is the subject, cannot speak is the verb, and it has a complete meaning. So I have 2 independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction, so it's a compound sentence. عندي 2 independent clauses موصولين ب coordinating conjunction، فإذا هي compound. After she graduated, she could easily find a job. After هي subordinating conjunction، وهيدي dependent clause وهيدي independent clause، فإذا هيدي complex sentence. Do you want a boy or a girl؟ عندي subject واحد اللي هو you، والverb هو to want، فإذا it's a simple sentence. I made him a sandwich because he was hungry. I made him a sandwich is an independent clause. Because he was hungry is a dependent clause, and because is a subordinating conjunction, so it's a complex sentence. I read the book and slept early last night. I is the subject and the subject واحد. Read the book and slept early. Read and slept are 2 verbs for the same subject, so it's a simple sentence.
كان معكم دكتور أناون. بشوفكم الفيديو الجاي. See you.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.